Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you another off-season video. In this video, I'm talking early betting lines. Essentially, what I mean is, where am I finding early line value at any point in the college football season? So I'm not necessarily talking about week 1. I'm going to be talking about week 4, week 10, week 8, whichever week of the season. So in this video, I found 3 lines that I like, that I believe the line can shift by the time these games come around, and I want to catch the lines now before they do. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start things off with the Gators visiting the Canes. Florida is coming into this game, or Miami's coming into this game as a 3.5-point favorite. So they say in college football and football in general, when betting, that home field advantage, the home team gets 3 points. That's what they say. Really, it's 2.5, but 3 points. So in this game, you're saying Miami, Florida is really a pick 'em. But if you know anything about college football, and if you know anything about the Miami Hurricanes, they don't necessarily sell out their stadium. So the Gator fans travel. So Gators fans in their own state, they're not gonna travel to Miami. Of course they are. That stadium is probably gonna be 60-40 in favor of the Canes at best. So there's gonna be no home field advantage in this game, in my opinion. And then let's get into the matchup. First, let's talk about the offense. Miami loses the number 1 overall draft pick at quarterback, so there's going to be an obvious regression. You don't lose the number 1 overall pick and not see a regression in your offense. So what do? They went into the portal and got another transfer quarterback, Carson Beck from Georgia. Carson Beck coming off a dud of a year, but he is a very experienced player. He has started multiple years at Georgia, but he's coming off a dud of a season. And he had better players at Georgia and a better program and a better coach. Now he comes to Miami, and you're expecting to be a bounce back. I don't necessarily see it. And on top of that, they went into the portal and had to retool the entire wide receiving core. They lost some veteran wide receivers that played a lot of football there at Miami, underrated guys in my opinion. And they go in and get 3 or 4 new portal additions in their wide receiving core. So you're talking about new receivers, new quarterback, all in a new system. These guys got to get chemistry. Are they going to have that chemistry by September 20th, that early in the season? I don't think so. And when in comparison with a Florida team that's got DJ Lagway with basically the same receivers he had, he lost his top 2 guys, but the rest of the depth chart returns, and they did add 1 portal addition in the wide receiver room. But essentially, he's got his entire wide receiving core, as far as the depth pieces, back. He's got a veteran offensive line, and he brings back his top 2 running backs. There's going to be a lot more chemistry and cohesiveness on the Florida Gators offensive side than you're going to see on Miami's side. And to be able to slow down that Florida Gator offense, you're talking about a secondary that got completely retooled. Canes went into the portal and got four new additions, basically 4 new starters in the secondary, 4 or 5 new guys. But we're not talking about we're not talking about Deion Sanders, right? They didn't go to the portal and get Deion Sanders. So we're not talking about high-rated players that come into to the Miami Hurricanes and going to be able to immediately lock down and lock up a Florida passing game that's probably going to be hitting on all cylinders at this point in the season. So because of that reason, I think all the firepower is on the Florida Gators side in this one. For that, I would take Florida with the plus 3.5. If you can find a money line, I would money line this game because I would take Florida straight up to win this game on the road. All right, next up, we're going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs visiting the Auburn Tigers. This is a game I talked about in the previous video when I was talking about trap games. In this game, Georgia comes in as a 7-point favorite. Georgia's coming in this season as a preseason top 5 team, but I don't believe that they're preseason top 5. Georgia's going to get some losses this year. They might still make it to the college football playoff, but if they do, my guess is they get in at 9-3. So what does Georgia have working for them? They got a deep receiving core. They added Noah Thomas from Texas A&M. That was their top wideout. They bring back Dylan Bell. They added Zachariah Branch from USC, playmaker with the ball in his hands. This is a deep receiving core, no doubt about it. But that deep receiving core is masking all these other issues that the offense has. The O-line lost a ton of starters from last year, and they really disappointed last year at that. The running game was weak last year by Georgia standards, and they're bringing back the same back, Nate Frazier. They tried to force Nate Frazier down your throat last year as some 5-star freshman recruit who's a big time stud. Maybe he's not really a 5-star because that wasn't Adrian Peterson or Todd Gurley that you were looking at last season. He comes back, they go in the portal, add Josh McCray, but he's not really a dog. So I don't really know what they're gonna have in the running game, but behind I will say I don't want to call them mediocre running backs, but we'll say mediocre as of now running backs behind a brand new offensive line that we don't know how they could perform. I just don't see the running game for Auburn this upcoming season. And as I spoke about in a previous video, Georgia has had so much turnover on the defensive side of the ball. They sent so many guys to the NFL over the last couple years. You got to see some regression, especially with how NIL is now in the transfer portal. Georgia's lost so many guys to the NFL, and they lost so many guys to the transfer portal. They got C.J. Allen and Christian Miller, but the rest of the guys are not what you're used to seeing for Georgia. I just don't think. I know they got Kirby Smart, and he's that guy, defensive mind, but I just don't think you're going to see the Georgia defense that you're used to seeing over the past few years. And you're going against so that those issues I see on Georgia going against an Auburn team, Keldrick Folk at edge, absolute monster on the edge. First, in my opinion, he could be a first round draft pick. Georgia doesn't have anybody that can block him. Now, the rest of that front seven for Auburn, question marks, but they got two good corners in Jay Crawford and Kane Lee that they can match up with these Georgia receivers. And if Falk is getting pressure on the quarterback, could have issues. Back to that quarterback, Gunnar Stockton for Georgia. Is he that guy? I thought he had some talent when I saw him against Notre Dame, but he only led him to 10 points. But some of that was receiver problems, receiver issues. I don't know. There's a lot of reports out there that seem like Georgia's not really sold on him as a starting quarterback. I don't know if those reports are true or not. From what I saw, he does have talent, but I just don't know if he's that guy yet because we haven't seen him. The only time we've seen him play, he didn't perform. He didn't perform. He only led Georgia to 10 points against Notre Dame. So all those issues behind that kind of offensive line against an Auburn rush that's going to be getting after him. It's going to be in Jordan Hare. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be a rivalry game. Georgia's bookend games are going to be Alabama, and the next week they're going to play Ole Miss. Those are two revenge games they're going to be focused on. I just don't think they're going to have that kind of focus on the Auburn Tigers, who have firepower on offense and Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton. I know one of the receivers might get kicked off the team, so I didn't want to mention him. But they got a veteran offensive line with some firepower on the outside and a lot of young dogs on that defense, on the defense side of the ball, a lot of young guys that can play ball. So Georgia, in my opinion, they might be running into a buzzsaw in this one. I won't go so far as to say Auburn money line if you could find it, but Auburn with the 7, this is going to be a dogfight for Georgia. I would not lay the 7 if I were the Georgia Bulldogs. I like Auburn plus 7, and this is a line that might come down by the time the game comes around. All right. And excuse me, final game is going to be we'll do some Big 12 game you probably wouldn't be used to seeing on here, but Kansas State visiting Utah. So for whatever reason, Utah's been getting a lot of gas over the last few weeks. I don't know why. Talk about Utah 3 weeks ago, they were an afterthought. Nobody even was considering them as a contender in the Big 12. Now all of a sudden, some national publicists are talking about Utah being a legitimate contender to win the Big 12 this season. Based off of what, I do not know. I'll give it to Utah. They got the best offensive line in the Big 12. They returned all 5 starters, and they got a big-time NFL draft pick type at left tackle. But that's it. They went into the portal and got all new receivers, all new quarterbacks, and all new running backs. The entire offense is made up of transfer players. How do you mold and meld them together? And we're talking about Utah. You think Utah's getting the top transfer portal targets out there to come to their school? Of course they're not. They go and get Devin Dampier coming in from a small school. He's not a passer. He's not a passer. He will not threaten your secondary. He's mobile. He's going to make plays with his legs, but he will not threaten your secondary. And because he's not going to threaten your secondary, they're going to have issues all season long passing the football. This is going to be a one-dimensional attack all year. Now you're going against a Kansas State team that's going to have a really tough defensive line. They're going to match up with that O-line. I don't think Dampier is he's the type of quarterback who's going to get loose against this Kansas State defense. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention it. Utah's coming into this game as a 1.5 point favorite. It's the reason I want to do this game because I couldn't believe that they were favored in this game to begin with. Then we talk about Utah's defense. Utah used to have some killers on the defense, no doubt about it. They had some dogs on the defensive side of the ball. Past couple years, attrition has happened. Guys have moved on to the draft and so on. They don't have those same dogs on defense. Now they're going against, in my opinion, could be one of the best offenses in the Big 12. I think Avery Johnson it should be the front runner for Big 12 Player of the Year, at least in the preseason. Best dual threat quarterback in the country. You can make that argument. He brings back his top wide receiver in Chase Brown. Then they get Jaron Brantley to transfer in from Boston College. If you look at his BC numbers, you'll think, man, who is he? What is he? I don't know what happened at BC, but a couple years ago, he was Texas Tech's top wide receiver. So he's a guy who can play. He's played a lot of football. 6'5", 220, matches up perfectly in that Kansas State offense. And they bring back Dylan Edwards from last year. I know they lose Dejan Giddens at running back, but Dylan Edwards at running back, he was the second stringer. Big time all-purpose back, explosive out of the backfield, makes a lot of plays in the catching passes out in the flat. So there's a ton of offensive firepower, in my opinion, on the Kansas State football side, and I don't see that same firepower on Utah. No matter what the offensive line's looking like, man, I don't think the defense can contend with this Kansas State offense either. So to me, K-State with 1.5, and K-State's gonna win this game. So K-State plus 1.5. It's late in the year too, November 22nd. That means K-State's probably playing for trying to get a berth in the Big 12 title game, and I don't think Utah's going to be, competing to get in the Big 12 title game by the time this game comes around. So give me Kansas State. 1.5 now, but if a money line pops up, man, definitely do the money line. K-State's winning that game. But anyway, so that wraps it up. 3 early betting lines that I like that I plan on doing this summer here in July. I'll probably wait to see some money lines come out too in August. Likely won't, but if they do, I'll probably jump on those as well. So, anyways, that wraps it up. Continue if you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that. As you're gonna see more off-season videos as we continue to get towards the start of the season. Take care.